I got huge news. Late last night, Jalen Bridges has decided to run it back at Baylor for his senior year. And granted, he could technically use his COVID year if he so desires, but we'll just wait and see on that. And as for this is massive because he was he was the best defender on the team last year consistently. And yes, I know Jonathan Chacho was a good defender, but he was not the same player when he got back in lateral quickness. He's still a step behind, but hopefully he improves that throughout the summer. But as for this coming back for Baylor, this is what they've been waiting on because the Tennessee transfer decided, you know what, I'm going to go to Michigan instead of Baylor because Baylor can't guarantee me that Jalen Bridges won't be back. And they decided to forget Grant Nelson as well from North Dakota State. So, yeah, they've been waiting on this. And remember, he could have easily gone to Australia, potentially. Australian League. So, I want to go over his stats from last year. First of all, he averaged 10.3 points per game, 5.6 rebounds per game, 1 assist per game, 1 block per game, 0.9 steals per game, 2.3 fouls per game, 1.1 turnovers per game. He did shoot 50.6% from the floor on 247 attempts, 32.4% from 3 on 111 attempts, but he was better in the Big 12 if you include that game against Iowa State in the Big 12 tournament where he went off. If you include that game. 63 for 81 on free throws, which is 77.8%. The only thing I could say he needs to improve is just his three-point shooting, but he had a rough start to the season last year. Really rough. And it seemed like after that West Virginia game, at West Virginia, his former school, obviously, the pressure got less to him and he didn't feel that chip on his shoulder and all that pressure building up to it. And looking forward towards that game, he just played loose and easy. And hopefully he could just do the same thing but all year now. I mean, and he has the potential to lead the team in scoring next year. He's that good. And I know some West Virginia fans might say, come on, man. When you look at the roster, it makes sense. And he's 6'7", 225 pounds at forward, by the way. And this is not including any walk-ons whatsoever. First of all, they have Ray J. Dennis at guard. Jacoby Walter, he's a 5-star. He could at least, if Jalen Bridges doesn't become the leading scorer, he's going to be right up there, though. You can't deny it. They got Langston Love. Like I said, Jonathan, that's just at the guard positions, and Jaden Nunn. They got Mira Little and Dantron Grimes, and they did get a walk-on. And Omar Adegbola, Adegbola. I apologize if I butchered that last name. From Monteverde Academy in Florida at 6'5". But I don't know about his wingspan, but and they do have, of course, another walk-on. And let me look at the name. And first, I definitely know it's not Jake Youngkin anymore. It's Austin Sachs. Yeah, that's the other guy. That's a walk-on for the team. At 6'7", 200 pounds at forward. So this is just an FYI on those two guys. And Omar is more like a developmental type. Maybe Baylor takes another developmental type because they do have a scarf open, and their front court now consists of Jalen Bridges, of course, Jonathan Chachua, aka Everyday John, if you want to call him that, because I know that Chachua is not easy to pronounce. You got Josh Ujuwuna, you got Eves Missy, and Caleb Lohner. And I hope for Caleb Lohner's sake, he improves. I mean, I just think he just needed a year to get back to that position where he was instead of like a center like he was at BYU a little bit. So really, and it's really a loaded roster. I mean, no matter the order of the guards on like Ray J. Dennis should be a starter, Jacoby Walter should be a starter. Langston Love, he could very well be a starter, and hopefully his eye thing is better by now. Hopefully it is. I mean, you're bringing up Jay Nunn off the bench, and he could be a starter potentially. Mira Little probably would start elsewhere, anywhere else in the country practically, but he's going to be off the bench, and same thing goes for Jordan Grimes. I've heard some good stuff about him. He's like the next Davion Mitchell in terms of defense. And just not including the walk-ons on this, because I don't know about the wingspan or anything. Every guy that's a scholarship player right now, except Antoine Grimes, has a 6'7" wingspan or better, as in like 6'8", 6'9". You get the point, like 7 feet tall. Just an example, and I know we did lose Adam Flagler to the draft, L.J. Cryer to Houston eventually after he declared for the draft and decided, you know what, I'm going to hand myself in the transfer portal and then decide to go to Houston, close to his hometown. Of course, we did lose Keontae George, but there's one thing in common with all those guys. They were not, for sure, they're all great, they're great scorers, but they're not great defenders, especially like L.J. Cryer and Keontae George especially. And Adam Flagler, he's okay. He's not like great defender, but he's not horrible either. I'm just saying, when you look at those two guys, and they were smaller guards at that. I mean, so yeah, and it's going to be a little bit, hopefully this defense takes a step in the right direction. Like, I don't know, back to a top 20 defense. And I think this team is very similarly built like that 2019-2020 team before that COVID shut down. A little bit in terms of defense. I do. And maybe, I don't know if the offense is going to necessarily be there like it was this past year with no defense whatsoever. But I think the offense is still going to be good. It's just not as good as last year, of course. But with the wait and see and all this, and I want to double check on how many scholarships remaining. I know besides those two walk-ons, they don't count as scholarships. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys. Technically, they have 2 more spots, and maybe they're not going to fill up everything. They're not, and they're probably going to just take a developmental type, possibly, maybe a transfer. I don't know. But they'll just wait and see, and it's going to probably be something during the summer about this, so just keep an eye out for that. And it really doesn't matter who starts at the center position to me, because I know Jonathan Chanwa is more than capable of being a starter if need be, but I know some people have cause for concern, but he's going to be back closer to himself than he was even when he first came back from the injury. And I do think Yves Missi and Josh Uzuwuna can really make a run for his money on who should start the center position. So you really have 3 legit centers on the team. Legit. I mean, and I know Yves Missi is going to have to get acclimated to the college game. He's got to. And Josh Uzuwuna still he's going to hopefully take a step in the right direction here. So, as for the Big 12 as a whole, I know Kansas is going to be automatically up there. I know Kansas State is replacing some pieces, but maybe you get past them this year in terms of the standings. Texas, there's a possibility that you get past them because I know they lost a lot of guys, and their freshmen, two of the freshmen they wanted to get, they're forgetting about them right now. And I know they got Max Asmus. I know they do, but they might not be as good defensively as last year. Hopefully you beat Iowa State for once after getting swept by them, despite them having a lower record than you. Maybe you get past Kansas State. I don't know about Kansas. That's the only thing. I know they lost some guys, but at the same time, they added some. I mean, TCU is going to be interesting. I would say it's a little bit interesting too. A little bit. Oklahoma State is going to definitely take a step backwards. And I think West Virginia is going to take a step forwards with all those additions that they had in the portal so far. If they land one more, it's going to be dangerous. And we know Houston's going to be up there as well, so that's going to be interesting. UCF, I don't know how good they're going to be, and same thing goes for BYU. Cincinnati's been up and down in basketball as well, so we'll have to wait and see. Texas Tech is going to deal with the first-year head coach, and we'll have to wait and see how they do under that. And Oklahoma has a little bit of roster turnover as well, so despite not having a new head coach, but I'm just saying when you look at the portal and how many guys they have lost, so this is just a little overview on that. I don't know where Baylor finishes necessarily, but it's going to be an entertaining Big 12 next year for sure, especially with 14 teams for a change, and there's no more round robin with everybody. It's going to be 18 conference games still, but it's going to be like, how many teams do you play twice? How many teams do you just play once? And we're going to have to wait and see with the rest of the schedule too. And that's not just for Baylor, but everybody, both non-conference and conference slate. So, and if you like this content, like and subscribe and see you guys learn, find subscribers, we're on the road to it. Let's go. And man, I was fired up once he decided to come back to Baylor for his senior year, because the team needed him in a bad way. If they didn't get him, then it would have been big trouble. I mean, they probably would have got a transfer anyway, but they felt comfortable thinking they're going to get him back anyway. So we'll have to wait and see what else happens in the offseason here.